Dear Diary, as I suspected, the rest of the evening from my previous entry was chaotic and cursed. Skeletons popping out of the ground like friggin' daisies began to pursue us. We were faced with the choice of pulling all our shit uphill versus going around the hill. We stopped and deliberated like overwhelmed idiots, just long enough for the undead to finally catch up to us. Thankfully, I have one other specialty aside from cooking, and that's handling undead. I used my holy symbol of Lathander to cast them off, allowing us to reach Thornhaven in one piece, but the danger was far from over. Morehouse at first was annoyingly recalcitrant towards my insistence of alerting authorities so that they could order people to protect themselves from an incoming monster attack. He suspected, for some reason, the higher-ups might have been involved in all of this. I frustratingly asked, well, how the hell else are we supposed to alert and convince civilians to take safety? That's when Morehouse, with a pep in his step, strutted to the centre of the late-night festival grounds and used thaumaturgy to boom his voice and alert the people.
People of Thornhaven, we're under attack. Drop your beers and run. Run for your very lives.
Well, I gotta hand it to our new tiefling friend. He got people moving. So while a thirsty Morehouse went looking for abandoned pints, the rest of us spoke to a gent named Jared. He was in charge of overseeing the safety of the festival. We informed him of what happened, and he seemed bewildered. In the middle of us talking, another gent named Leto came dashing over, stating frantically, the sanitarium is being friggin' attacked by werewolves from the inside. And it was that moment I felt more inclined to consider Morehouse's concerns with internal corruption here. Just how did people in the sanitarium either get turned into and/or broken into by werewolves? That place is a friggin' stone fortress. And then, right on cue, the howls of wolves echoed from beyond the northern gates. Us, seeing that adventurers were already organizing at the sanitarium, we all darted to help protect it. We found the watchtower abandoned, which is quite troubling and serves as more evidence that Morehouse is looking more and more correct on his hunch. Maverick and Anon worked diligently to try and fast build up some defenses, as it sounded like the wolves were coming closer. But the first thing to pop out of the woods was an adventurer named Guard. He stated between tired breaths that he barely made it out alive as a massive werewolf tore into his party, and he was the last man standing strong enough to flee. And then, as if it had hunted this poor bastard all the way here, a werewolf lunged from the woods and initiated an attack on us all. Unfortunately, in the altercation, poor Guard got bitten and indicated he could feel the burn that signals a failure of one's constitution to suppress the curse of lycanthropy. We all sunk hits into the ferocious dogman until the poor soul fell to its ruin. It transformed back into a man and covered all over, or his body were ritualistic scars that Anon deduced to be cult-like activity. Fantastic! More fucking weirdos to deal with. Ugh, why can't people be more normal, for fuck's sake? After instructing Guard that he needed to find safety in town, Maverick, Anon and myself, who were still feeling the buzz of adrenaline, along with the moral obligation of protecting this beautiful town, we went straight for the sanitarium to assist. Morehouse was starkly against this, not interested in risking his skin any further without compensation. It was rather disappointing, but to be fair to him, he doesn't have attachments to this town like we all do. This was just a pit stop for him, I suppose. Though he did offer to look out for Shadow while we go handle this mess, so it counts for something, I guess. I try to see the good in people when I can, something I think the otherwise sweet Maverick might need to work on. Because I swear, a couple times tonight, he wanted to pounce the rascal tiefling more than our foes. I should make him and Morehouse share a cookie together and shake hands. Anywho, at the sanitarium, adventurers had already dealt with a couple of werewolves found at a higher level of the tower, holding it off so other adventurers could carry out defenseless survivors safely. But a wolf remained inside hiding, making excavation efforts challenging. After I got some intel from a bird in exchange for a special cookie, we were cued a werewolf had disappeared into the shadows. Once our trio was inside, we kept a wide formation while trying to suss the beast out. As Maverick kept his senses strong and pinned down a general location where the beast could be heard breathing in the distance, I created a minor illusion of a child. Thankfully, it fell for it as it went lunning for the illusion, and we got the surprise on this bad puppy. If Morehouse was right about one thing, It's that we were all tired and needed to look out for ourselves more. Our energy was quite depleted from the last fight, and it took a long while to pick this wolf off. Unfortunately, we let our guards down during the fight, as the beast successfully sunk its teeth into poor fucking Anon's shoulder. Now him feeling the stinging burn of the curse making its way into his bloodstream with a fucking natural one. Oh gods. On one hand, maybe having a werewolf party member could be useful. That is if he could learn over time to control it better. Big if, though, so it's best we try to get his ass cured ASAP. What would his father, Zeal, say if he learned that I let Anon get turned into a fucking werewolf on my watch? And good gods, it's bad enough that Shadow licks her asshole on the dinner table. We don't need a giant wizard dog doing the same. Fuck my life. Jeremiah, what did I sign myself up for here? Back to the nippy werewolf, though. The fight was honestly a close call. Maverick struggled during it, and Anon came close to fainting, while I had only one spell left by the end of the fight. Yeesh! And like with the last werewolf, a man covered in an array of ritualistic scars was disturbingly laid out before us, matching the other slain beast men in the tower from the battles before us. We made our exit as the last survivors were carried out. The guild leaders, expressing gratitude while counting bodies and instructing everyone to rest up, and those bidden to report back here tomorrow. I gave them my stash of healing cookies to help those gravely wounded. Nothing like a spoonful of sugar to help the medicine down, or so they say. Afterwards, we all met up at the Tiger Lily Tavern, where Morehouse and Shadow sat looking mutually bored with each other, as Maverick, with an angsty tone, inquired as to what they had been doing while we helped protect the town. Morehouse, with a self-satisfied smirk, pulled from his pocket a seed. He supposedly went back to the building where that malevolent group was staying. It had some difficult locks to bust, but he rolled high and sleuthed in. At first it seemed the complex was fully abandoned, but an insanely high perception that allowed Morehouse to find this very seed. Just like the book that troubling group dug up from the ground, this seed also glows in the moonlight. It's evidently magical. What's not evident is if this seed is something precious this group accidentally left behind and would want to come back for, or if it was left here in a hard-to-find crack in the hardwood floor intentionally, and if so, for what purpose. We should be careful with this potentially unsprouted terror. Anon took a striking interest in the seed rolling a 19 to understand its nature. He was surprised that this seed appears to be a fabled Lumina seed. It's the fact that Anon can't speak more of the seed beyond its name that is actually very telling, meaning it's potentially otherworldly, and at the very least it's a truly rare specimen. We all were exhausted by that point and agreed to meet at the local tea house for breakfast in the morning. When that time rolled around, a guard, not to be confused with Mr. Guard we met the previous evening, rang a bell to alert everyone inside that an urgent general meeting discussing last night's events would be taking place later in the afternoon, occurring after. The council finishes an executive session before the meeting. They also were looking for anyone who could assist with fending off more skeletons that were spotted outside of town, while Maverick, clearly needing to get more rage out of his system, volunteered to help with the skeletons in the hopes of securing himself a silver weapon. When the guard asked Maverick to identify himself and who in an official capacity could vouch for him in Thornhaven, Maverick name-dropped Cedric Ironhard of the Craft Guild, a noteworthy name in town. Thus Maverick was accepted into their temporary combat ranks. As for myself and Anon, the line to be seen by the head doctor was very fucking long. And I wasn't having another minute of it. These bones need to keep moving, or else they lock up and scream at me. So I bellowed loudly about my back pain and tragic concerns for Anon becoming more feral by the minute, as the young wizard cutely pretended to foam at the mouth and belly growl like a sickly beast. Our high-performance theatrics let us cut ahead in line to be seen immediately by Miss Thorne, the head doctor of Thornhaven, and Miss Neera, the head alchemist. While I understand they're busy and that there is a shortage of healers and supplies, it unfortunately turned out coming here was a waste of our time, as they are completely out of anti-curse supplies. Oh, whelp, Anon, you just might be fucked, my boy. We're getting Shadow a puppy friend for the holiday and I hate it. The most they could offer was filling us in on a rumour that the town's primary rare goods supplier, A wizard named Amar, who hasn't been here in over 3 years, is expected to be returning soon. How soon? No one could tell me. They just warned that if it isn't by the next full moon, which would trigger the curse to fully take root, that if we don't have the means to restrain Anon from hurting himself or others, that we should report back to them the day before so they can supply a facility to restrain him. Well, with concerns to what Morehouse was saying about potential infiltration into the town and no explanation yet as to who and how caused the sanitarium residents to be ritualistically turned, neither Anon nor I felt okay with that recommendation. Besides, I have heavy-duty locks, chains and cut-resistant cloth in my trusty pet wagon Bergamot. If Anon ends up becoming an actual werewolf, we'll just have to crate-train him. And then there won't be any excuse for Shadow not to learn some damn table manners too. After that, Anon and I headed towards the executive session meeting. We bumped into Morehouse on the way, who had a shit-eating grin while bragging about his successful antics convincing Captain Roland of the Thornhaven Protectors, along with 2 lower-ranked members named Smith and Griswold, that his name is Thalgar and is a very important person who deserves immediate access to the meeting. Pretty clever, but once we got to the meeting, it turns out all we had to do was state we witnessed some freaky shit are willing to testify. Now Morehouse has to keep up his identity of Thalgar if he doesn't want to look like an opportunistic liar. The 3 of us seated ourselves together at the meeting and heard some troubling testimonies. When it was our turn to speak up, the council revealed they actually were well aware of that party we stalked for Morehouse. They supposedly call themselves the Silks and ended up betraying some men they were working with to help Thornhaven, cold-blooded killing them. The council didn't become aware of this reality until after last night's bloodbath. Morehouse spoke up that he will be pursuing the Silks with or without the council's approval, stating he has a way to do so, but due to his suspicion of internal corruption, he did not feel comfortable sharing the mechanism and reasons to which he is tracking these rotten sons of bitches. The council at first raised a stern brow to his audacity, which is when Anon confidently spoke up, introducing himself as the son of Zeal, a respected wizard and private bookkeeper in Thornhaven, presently away on a highly important research mission. Anon eloquently professed his trust in Morehouse, or rather Thalgar, and this political puffery seemed to work as the council eased themselves, expressing they'd like to send some of Thornhaven's protectors to accompany us on the endeavour to track the Silks down and get justice for those that have been harmed or killed. We all agreed to these terms, but just before the meeting was to finally adjourn, one last individual has just now bursted loudly into the chamber.
I can still picture Commander Rhea in my mind. She earned her position as the strategic brains of our crew. I will forever remember her decked out in her battle-tested armor, standing resolute at the front, guiding us through the dark woods, the Thornhaven emblem dancing on Rhea's cloak in the moonlit breeze. We all relied on her as our beacon into danger. I and the others, clenching our swords tighter, confident in our stride into battle. That is, until the poisonwood goblins on Spiderback ambushed us. We all struggled to recalibrate our strategies against the madness. And just when we thought we were gaining ground against the horde, some damned cultist closed in on us. The hissing and skittering of the spider-riding goblins regaining momentum made our skin crawl. Rhea shouted orders, trying to organize us, but our enemies were nimble. Venom-tipped arrows struck, and we found ourselves in a desperate struggle. But that was nothing compared to the fucking cultists. Suddenly, former allies lost their sanity and turned into twisted enemies, leaving those of us still of sound mind caught in a deadly dance of fending off too many foes. This was the first time I saw the starken face of concern in Commander Rhea, her troubled gaze as she observed a hellish arrival. She was sadly too slow for the chain demon. Sinewy and dried up, its body writhed with layers of thick serrated chains. It rushed us as fast as it arrived, single-handedly fucking breaking our attempts to flank. And with Commander Rhea's unwavering courage, she met its march, and likewise charged straight for it, in a mighty spectacle of dexterous grace. But it became clear she was rapidly tiring out against it. After everything we had already suffered through, now forever burned in my cursed memory. Poor Commander Rhea's torso pierced and raised into the sky, before being jerked away like a pitiful fucking ragdoll, she then vanishing in the evil grasp of the chainsaw demon as my brothers and sisters in arms wept, powerless to change fate. As despair gripped us all, a little hope was born from the renowned druid adventurer named Thalia Whisperleaf. She compassionately assured us that she would create an obscuring fog to cover our retreat. As Thalia transformed into a roaring bear and her summoned fog veiled our escape, we fought our way out. When the dust settled, there were only 6 of us that survived the encounter. We lost some of our best and brightest out there. And yet, frustratingly, all we got out of it was the ability to warn you all. Watch out, and brace yourselves for cultists turning your allies into enemies, and especially heed my warning of this chainsaw demon. If you are ever unfortunate enough to encounter the hellish blight that stole Commander Rhea from us, may the gods have mercy on you is all I can say.